I could not stress this more in the PT space because you have a lot of referral competition out there between the in-house PTs at healthcare systems in your area, orthos that have PT in-house. There's so many options for patients when they're going to PT. And so you have to be able to stand out above the crowd.
Well, hey, Justin, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm very good today. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm looking forward to talking about all things healthcare marketing. But before
Absolutely.
we
Thanks for
dive
having me.
into that, tell me a little bit about yourself, your work. You've been doing this for a decade, and then we'll kind of dive right in.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Justin. The business that my wife and I own is Intrepy Marketing. We focus pretty squarely in the multi-location private surgical space and helping practices kind of attract and retain patients. Like you said, I've been doing it for about 10 years. My background is actually in the venture capital and early stage investing space. That's kind of how I got the entrepreneurial itch, is watching so many companies get started and funded. And my wife actually had the healthcare background. We were crazy enough to start this when we were dating out of a
Oh,
one-bedroom
wow.
apartment with no internet, almost 10 years ago out of Atlanta. And I mean, we've been very fortunate 10 years later to work with some of the most amazing practices in the country, mid and large size. And my wife does a lot of the referral development stuff. And so we were really able to help practices on all sides, from the digital landscape to going boots on the ground and training up people to go out in the field and build referral relationships.
Awesome. Cool deal. Well, I guess the big question is we're coming up at the end of 2022. Moving into 2023, a lot of the people that listen to the show own a practice or managing some kind
Yeah.
of healthcare facility or something like that, and they're wondering kind of like what should the marketing strategies be heading into the next year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do think again, leaving kind of the digital conversation in just a second, don't forget about the referral development piece. I think that's really important, whether you're a PT group or you're a multi-location ortho, anybody that lives on referrals from primary care, hospitals, that stuff. COVID really put a halt to all of that. And that has subsided to a level where people are comfortable with you going back out. So I think continue to not lose sight of nurturing referral relationships. I think on the digital side, things have gone and will continue to go local. So I think making sure you're paying attention to some of the fundamental, really easy to do stuff in terms of your website and your Google My Business. Make sure you have your Google My Businesses squared away for each of your locations and put effort into building your reputation on those, because not only can that cause referral leakage from a patient that's referred to you and you have a bad reputation, but it's also one of the biggest impacts on ranking in all those near me searches that every practice wants to rank for. But back to the basics of your website is, if you can look at your website and you have a void in content for the treatments and conditions you'd like to rank for in terms of individual pages, you're never going to win that battle over other local healthcare practices and facilities and healthcare systems. So content is key and will continue to be super key as a baseline to success in local search rankings. And I think on the other side, doing some level of advertising, because there's such a opportunity now to go direct to consumer. I mean, even in orthopedics, we literally are
Yeah.
booking thousands of patients for orthopedic urgent care facilities every month just using advertising. So people that say I'm 100% referral based, you're missing out on an opportunity. And what if a referral dries up because an MSO comes into town or a health system closes its referral walls? You've got to be prepared to build relationships direct to consumer.
Yeah, especially with all these consolidations happening. I'm sure you
Yep.
see it too. I work in the ancillary healthcare space, and you'll have like a hospital system go out and buy, a primary care office or a specialty office or something like that. And then they try to keep all those referrals in house. So there
Oh, for sure.
literally have been instances of PT clinics that I've worked with that like 90% of their referrals dry up because now this big health
Well,
system is
even
referring in house.
PT. I mean, you've got some massive MSO level PT organizations that have either been around for a long time or are quickly forming because private equity is getting involved. And it makes sense because you've lost your leverage against and your negotiating power against the insurance companies, and
Yeah.
margins are so small anyways. It's really the only way to get that power back is to gather together and use just sheer volume to get better payout. And so we're just going to continue to see that happening. But yeah, even in our world, like orthopedics, MSOs are the name of the game now, and you're seeing them just starting to buy up and work their way across the country. And so the whole landscape is really changing.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned website, you've talked about SEO a little bit. What do you tell somebody who, we come across this a lot, where somebody thinks that their business is humming along in a good clip, they're busy, their clinic is full, like why should I spend any money on doing the website? Like, isn't what I've got good enough?
You never know what the future holds, and everything has pointed to consumer engagement and consumer conversation with medical practice becoming more one-to-one. Like they want more
Yeah.
secure two-way text. They want to be able to get to their health records easier. They want to be able to get script refills without having to get on the phone and wait on hold. And all of that happens in the digital space. Even like adoption rates with EHR patient portals, they were saying baby boomers won't get on board. And there's like a 1% adoption rate difference between the under 40 and the over 40 crowd. So everything is pointing to patients want to be able to connect with the potential practices or the practices that they are already going to for their health. And even if you are already, say, booking 3 months out, you never know what can happen. And COVID proved that. COVID flipped everything on its head. It shut
Yeah.
off referral ecosystems. It closed everybody's doors and it forced everybody online. So all of a sudden, people were scrambling to implement call centers, trying to get website chat to triage patients, like anything that they could do. And if you're not planning ahead, you're bound to something's going to catch up to you. And we've even seen it with, like, we had an ortho group in Macon, for instance, that we were working on from a sales opportunity standpoint. They came to us because they'd been there for 40 years. It was all older orthos that had all of their referral networks. They were booked out for 4 or 5 months. And then Resurgence, the second or third largest orthopedic practice
Yeah.
in the United States, walked into Macon and all their referrals dried up. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, they were running around with their heads on fire trying to figure out how to get back in front of the patient. And it's because they ignored their brand equity, they ignored their online presence, they ignored their reputation, they ignored their SEO, they ignored all the things that give you a safe place to fall and not completely rely on referrals. And
Yeah.
that's huge because, like you're saying, is with the creation and the rise of MSOs and healthcare systems acquiring practices, if you don't go that way, then the only option that you have is to go out and fight and claw for your own direct-to-consumer marketing efforts, because eventually your referrals are going to start going down. There's no way around that.
Exactly. Yeah. And part of that, you mentioned the journey, the patient journey, if you would. We talk about it a lot with our clients, like the patient life cycle, and all of that has
Sure.
really shifted in the last 10 years. Like you said, right? The majority of patients that are coming into practices now are looking you up on Google or
Mm-hmm.
your website or whatever. So what are those, I guess, big ticket items or big things that you look for on a website that's like, oh, this is a decent website, it's checking all the boxes, or man, this needs some improvement here?
Absolutely. The just overall user experience and navigation, especially on mobile. I mean, there's really no way around that. Mobile has taken over and
Yeah.
everybody's heard it, but it is here. It's not going anywhere, and it's only continued to grow as phone screens get bigger and cell reception improves. And you've got to first and foremost make sure that people can get around your website really easily. The other, I think the adoption has been way behind in this space, is self-scheduling. Like, you've got to have self-scheduling on your website. Like, it is the last thing that patients want to see, honestly. A lack of the ability for them to schedule without having to like call and leave a voicemail, hope you call them back. Once you call them back, try to find time in the schedule. And then I think the other would probably be some type of like website chat or two-way text functionality. It's just all about ease of communication. And that's become, I just think, from a customer relations standpoint, something that's been forgotten. And the ones that do it right and can create that high touch point through their website, and give patients the ability to connect and chat with somebody and get an appointment scheduled is absolutely huge. And then I think last is video. I think video is the way of the future. And if you can communicate your differentiators, the way you approach treatment, your post-op and pre-op care follow-up, and you can do that through video as a medium, you're going to go a long way to making patients really happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Does do you, I mean, obviously SEO is important. How much of that are you focusing on, like putting specific things on the website and structuring the website versus, like you said, just getting good quality relevant content out there? And then the follow-up question is going to be, how do you convince these these clinicians that they need to start creating some content?
Yeah, for sure. So we do a little bit of both. I mean, structure is really key. And typically and I do like a very high level audit, there's really two major things that are missing is, like you said, the content is missing. So we got to get the content up there, usually 250 to 500 words, depending on how competitive the condition or treatment you're going after and how big of the city that you're in. That will vary. But the other critical part, that the way that SEO works is a lot like an outline when you were taught to do outlines in like 7th or 8th grade. You've got like your most important numerical numbers, and then it kind of goes down from there. And a lot of people just completely miss out on getting the proper focus keywords and the proper geographical anchor tags in their title tag. And what I mean by that is, if you're going after rotator cuff repair, you need to have rotator cuff repair in Atlanta or rotator cuff repair specialist in Atlanta. And most people just default to what WordPress does, and that's the name of the page and the name of the practice.
Yeah.
You don't need to put the name of the practice in your title tag unless it's the about page. You're not going to have a problem ranking for the name of your practice, and it doesn't help your frozen shoulder repair page.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
yeah, for sure. And then
Um,
I'd say the convincing side of things is, I mean, it, if you're not convinced by now that patients are going online and they're searching for the types of stuff that you do, it's going to be difficult to convince you otherwise.
yeah.
I mean, and the reality is that the top 3 organic Google search results, especially when you include the map pack like Google My Business, get 90% of clicks. If you're not showing up A, on the first page, but B, in the top 3, your website is essentially utterly worthless. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. Like, if you've invested in a website and nobody sees it and nobody's going there through organic search, what value is it creating? Pretty much
Yeah.
nothing, because that means only people finding it are people familiar with your brand, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And
Patients
so
looking for directions or the number to call you back at. You're not bringing in new folks.
exactly. Those are all returning patients that are familiar with your brand, and that's not adding value to your bottom line at the end of the day. And so from a convincing standpoint, is you should be investing in it. And the reason why is that patients are out there and they're searching, and their search volume numbers to prove it. And if you're willing to invest the time and the effort into it, or the monetary efforts into it to find somebody to help you do it, it's going to reap rewards, because all you're doing is presenting yourself as an expert in your space at the top of search, and then letting the patient do the rest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And one of those, when you talk specifically about like digital marketing and SEO and all that, there's a lot out there. You could bury yourself in dashboards and
Oh
analytics
yeah.
and all of
Yep.
that kind of stuff. But especially for a busy, maybe a practice administrator or somebody that's managing a group for one of these ortho groups, like what should they care about in terms of like the reporting or the tracking that they're monitoring, maybe a couple KPIs that they should be following? Because I mean, you can get way into the weeds with this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And like a good example of what not to hold on to too tightly are things like keyword tracking. Like
Uh-huh.
clients get so hung up on that. Like, I must rank number 1 for this keyword. But the reality is that can make you sleep well at night. But do you know if that is the money keyword that converts more patients? Because you could
Yeah.
have something searched 20,000 times versus something that's searched 20, but 50% of those 20 people convert. And that could be a lot more valuable. So I think it is understanding, I think conversion metrics first and foremost is making sure you have Google Analytics or Google Analytics 4, which is really going to be the source of truth by June of next year, set up in the right way to know where are you sourcing patients from, in terms of, are they coming from organic? Are they coming from the different paid ads you may be investing in? Are they coming from social media? Where are they converting on your website? And where could you potentially optimize better to get more people to convert? I think
Yeah.
that's really important. And the other side too is the self-scheduling is why it is so critically important. Without that, unless you have a full stack integration with your EHR and your marketing efforts, it's going to be really hard to prove anything except just pure top of funnel lead generation. With the self-scheduling, you can at least know they went all the way through the scheduling. When you just have a contact form fill, that's the end of the journey for the most part. Somebody fills a form out, it gets sent to an email inbox, and then somebody at the front desk follows up. I mean, that's all the marketing agency is really going to be able to deliver to you. So I think making sure that you're investing in some tech that allows you to connect the dots a little bit better is going to be really, really important. So I think understanding your conversions, and then there should be at the organic search level, there should be a natural rise in website traffic that leads to more conversions. And same thing on the paid ad side. If you're investing in paid ads over time, you should see conversions going up, conversion percentages going up, and the cost to acquire that patient going down. And if you're not, then you're probably not doing a good enough job to optimize your campaigns month in and month out.
Yeah. Well, and from a strictly, because we haven't even talked about paid stuff yet, like how much as a percentage for a healthcare practice, multi-location practice, how much should they be expecting to get from organic search versus reaching out and, you know, paid ads on some platform or something like that? Or does it change as, like, early on, maybe you're spending a whole lot of money on paid advertisement, and then as your SEO improves and your organic rankings increase, and, you know, you can decrease some of your ad spend, and you kind of balance it out?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said. I think that there is a weighted scale depending on I think the maturity of your organization, how long you have maybe been doing marketing and how old your website is, that can influence this. But when you're starting out, your first couple of years in, you haven't done much marketing, there's nothing quick really about SEO. It is a journey. It's going to take 9 to 12 months to kind of fully get there, and where it's really creating value to your bottom line. Paid ads, fortunately, you can do in 90 days or less. And it does take ultimately 9 to 12 months to sit down and say, where are we getting diminishing returns? Where should we put more ad budget to make really smart data decisions? But in terms of getting patients through the door, you can do that really quickly. So what I always tell people is you should look at probably waiting more early on to paid ads to bootstrap your marketing efforts and get people through the door and put more money into it, but always keeping your eye on the prize in terms of at the baseline, you want to grow your SEO, because that's always going to be the highest ROI over time. And then as you start seeing more fruit on the SEO side, you can start shifting down your ads budgets, focusing them more on remarketing the people you're getting on organic, and continue to put more into potentially like backlink building and second and third phase things in SEO. So I always say wait it to paid ads, but long-term, you really need to keep your eye on the prize getting there with SEO, but you need to hedge your bet. You need to protect your bet, just like you investing, by investing in paid ads in the short term.
Yeah, you brought up a topic here. So backlinking. So there are companies out there and agencies that you pay them, I don't know, 1,100-1,200 bucks a month, and they will go out and get you backlinks. How important are backlinks for SEO? And then is it something that, you know, a practice should look at going and acquiring one of these firms to do it on a recurring basis for them?
Yeah, great question. Absolutely, are backlinks critical? And there are some extremely good organizations that are out there that just do that and have consumerized the whole entire experience and can get you very, very quality stuff. There's also, you get what you pay for. There's also crap out there that's going to be really spammy, and I would stay as far away from that as possible. It's just not worth it. I think how we typically approach it is backlink building, and it can be done as part of phase one, but just depending on your budgets, should really be a phase two focus, because you need that cornerstone content before you ever really should go in and invest in backlink building. And so I think making sure that you've gone through the process of building out if you want to rank for it, you need a page for it, part of the process. But once you get there, if you're stuck, especially if you're in a mid to large size market, it's going to be difficult for you to get unstuck from like the 7th position or the 5th position without beginning to look at backlink building as the next phase in your SEO kind of iterative process. And so that's what we usually do, is we spend the first, say, 6 months really investing in content. And once we've got that foundation there, then we move our clients into the next phase, which is focused on backlink building to increase domain authority, but really go after very specific keywords on specific treatment pages that we need to get them to the top of search to generate more traffic for them, to ultimately generate more patients. So yeah, I would recommend it. And there is some DIY out there like the Hoth and Fat Joe and a few of those that that I have industry experience with and know do a very good job. And you can spend a few $100 and get a very quality backlink on a very quality website. But a good agency should have that as a normal part of their SEO protocol, or it's going to be hard to do anything but just say, well, we've done all we can. Now let's write blogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you mentioned domain authority. So what is that for somebody that doesn't know anything about this?
Good question. So domain authority is a number that kind of our industry has come up with on how impactful your website is in search results from Google. It's kind of like the FedEx rankings in golf. Like you get a cumulative score and the person at the top wins. It's a score from 0 to 100. The ones close to 100, it's going to be very easy for them to rank, like the YouTubes of the world, Google, Forbes, Inc., Wall Street Journal. All of them have 90+ domain authority. It's why they can write an article about leadership and rank in the top 3 within a day, where I could create a blog about leadership and try for 5 years and maybe never crack the top 10. And that is the power of domain authority. So if you're looking at 2 practice websites and one's got age, say it's a 25-year-old website, that's a big thing for domain authority, because it's got trust with Google, and they've got content and backlinks, and their domain authority is 50. And you've got a new website with little content and little backlinks, and they've got a domain authority of 10. It's going to be very hard, no matter what you do, for that domain authority 10 website to outrank most things that website with a 50 domain authority has. And so it is important over time to focus on building your domain authority, because it's building trust with Google that says, you're good to put us at the top because our information is solid. We're not going to steal information from the patient, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And what, other than backlinks, I mean, what kind of things can practices do to improve that domain authority? Is it simply creating more content, or what?
Yeah, it's content, it's site structure. It is things like SSL certificates, things that have become mainstays. They were preached for a long time to switch over. 99% of the internet has, but security is a really big thing for Google, because they're in the search experience game. And so people getting their credit card information stolen on a website
Isn't good.
looks bad on Google, because they showed that person that website to go to. So security, backlink authority, age is a really, really big one, algorithmically, that's just going to naturally help you. So even if you're a new practice, going and investing in potentially a little bit more expensive domain in the auction and paying a few $1,000s, that you're like, why would I do that when I can buy a $8 domain? But if you get one that's got a good standing with Google and has maybe been on the internet for 20 years, that's going to literally cut 2 years of time off of your ranking journey. And so that is why people may be like, why would you ever go to the auction and spend $10,000 on a domain? It's like, because you're going to spend $10,000 in SEO to mature your brand new domain you spent $10 on. So but it really is the base stuff. It's content, it's backlinking, it's age, and it's trust in terms of security on your website. Those are the biggest things that you can do.
Yeah. I think, like you said, there's no easy way out. And some people,
no, there's not. There's no
some people
corners
I've talked to.
anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how much can I pay you to make me rank #1 in Google? I'm like, yeah,
and
not enough
Google's
money in the world right there.
And Google wants purity in its search results. They don't want corners to be able to be cut. They want you to have the best search experience and the most accurate search experience possible. It's even why you've seen such a huge shift to Google My Business and Google Business Profiles now being the primary focus of what Google's doing. Because in Google, if you really understand where we're heading, it's to Google's advantage to cut websites out of the conversation, to use them as a content aggregator to show in rich snippets the answer to the question you're looking for. So it's Google providing value to you and not my website. And that's what they're trying to do. It's why they want user-generated content in the form of reviews put on Google Business Profiles. So it's up to the consumer to tell Google who's the best out there and they should rank #1. And then they'll just let websites create tons of content and do that job while they extract that information and present it front and center without you ever having to visit a website. And that's what Google's thinking.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, you see it all the time, right? You search like, what are the best treatments for shoulder pain or something like that, and Google
And
has the
it'll
little
have it,
snippets
it'll
that
have a
pop up.
bulleted list. And so
Yeah.
you never even go to the website and read it. You just scan that really quick and you move on. And that's what Google wants.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yep.
crazy. Google's taking over the world.
Yeah. Not to scare anybody out there,
Yeah,
but your
exactly.
website might be obsolete in 10 years.
Yeah,
It won't
but
though, because they still need your content.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
they still need what you're creating.
So
So
just two things will happen. Organic search traffic on your website will start probably dropping over time, and anonymity in terms of direct traffic users in Google Analytics will start rising, because now you have iOS products and Android products that have high levels of privacy and security. And now they even have where you can create like pseudo emails through your iOS device. So email lists are going to become tougher to get really good emails on. Direct traffic will start rising, and your organic search may start falling because Google's doing so much in rich snippets.
yeah. All righty. I guess the last thing we haven't really covered has been paid advertisements. So as far as you hear it everywhere, well, you got to do Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or something, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Are there, is it like a specific platform or I guess, yeah, a social platform that you should focus on given your medical specialty, or is it one of those kind of you spray in all the big ones and then begin optimizing after you see some data come in?
Yeah, great question. I think when it comes to the social media ecosystem, it starts first and foremost with understanding your patient personas, your patient demographic, because that is ultimately what tells you where you need to be focusing your social media efforts. If you're serving if you're in PT and you're serving kind of two markets, you've got the like young adult student athlete market that you'd like to come in, but you also have the older baby boomer population. Those things could really be two sides. That could be TikTok and short video form content, and it could be Facebook, because that's where the older demographic is. So I think you always answer the question first of who is my audience and where does that audience spend time? And then you say secondarily, what content works best on that platform? Is it short form video? Is it long form video? Is it audio? Is it visual graphics like GIFs? And then you can back into where do we want to spend our time to have success on that platform and reach patients, investing into content. And I think, and then thinking through what does my content process look like to get the providers involved, because that's who patients want to hear from and want to see, without monopolizing too much of their time, because time is money for
Yeah.
providers, plain and simple. So how can I get them to spend 15 minutes as a PT filming some demonstration videos about how to techniques, DIY home techniques to unlock a frozen shoulder or things like that? That's huge. But you got to be able to figure out how to make it really easy on yourself, so you can just spend little time or it'll never happen. And so
Yeah.
that's what we always advise people is be very pointed in your process, but always start with who's my patient, where are they, what content works best in that platform, and then how are we going to go about pre-planning ahead of time, at least 1 month ahead, so we can focus on content development first and then only have to focus on engagement as we're posting.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's so big. It goes back to the quality content thing, right? Like there are
Yeah,
groups out there that you pay, I don't know, whatever the fee is, and they give you so many blog articles and so many videos a month, and a lot of them are just canned, right? They might change
yeah,
a couple
oh yeah,
things, and especially for clinicians, which healthcare is very much a relationship business. Not that others aren't, but healthcare really is
it is.
much more relationship
Well, there's
focused.
nothing more
You're
personal than your health.
Exactly. You're going to see a
Yeah,
specialist or
yeah,
an expert in this. It's it's critical that the patient or prospective patient is hearing, straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, what,
100%.
what this ortho group thinks about treating frozen shoulder or something like that. So
Oh yeah, I completely agree. Especially the younger crowd, or I mean, even because you have a big PT audience, I could not stress this more in the PT space, because you have a lot of referral competition out there between the in-house PTs at healthcare systems in your area, orthos that have PT in-house. There's so many options for patients when they're going to PT. And so you have to be able to stand out above the crowd. And the best way to do that is to connect with high school athletes that are in your area and give them PT recommendations, at home stretching protocols, all these types of things that would help. Like, I played collegiate athletics, that would help a student athlete at home. And then when I do tweak my quad, you're going to be first of mind, because I know that I can trust the way that you're going to approach it to get me back on the field.
Yeah, that's huge. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, we're getting near the top here. I always end with this. If there's like one or two main points you would want a practice owner or medical administrator to walk away with from the episode around marketing their medical or healthcare practice, what would they be?
Good question. I'd say number one is, because it's the easiest thing to do and one of the most impactful, is get your Google business profile house in order and set some type of process up with your front desk and in your clinic rooms to build reviews. That can be as simple as creating a QR code and putting in a stand you bought on Amazon and pointing people to it. And it's that simple. And we've seen it make a huge impact. You got to get something in place there, and you got to pay attention to it, because it matters so much. And the other side is you got to get buy-in from your providers one way or another, whether it's them doing written content or creating video content, but they can't ignore the marketing program and expect it to fully succeed as well as it could. And I think that's really important to understand, is there's no way for you to completely get out of it and say, well, we hired somebody, they can handle it. Like, it's your business, you need to protect it. And that means you got to pay attention at some level to the marketing. And it could be as simple as time blocking 30 minutes a month for you to do something that can add value as the expert at the practice that patients want to hear from. And I think those two things are: get buy-in from your provider and invest time and effort into building your reputation, even if it's a free process versus software. Do something. I think those are probably the two biggest takeaways.
Awesome. Cool deal. Well, Justin, where can people find out more about you, about Intrepy, about working with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really active on LinkedIn, so just check me out, Justin Knott. I'd love to connect and network. I put a ton of content out, YouTube videos, those types of things, about different ways to use advertising and all the things that we talked about today to generate more patients. And then our website, Intrepy, Intrepy, Intrepy.com. Check us out, and you can see a bunch of case studies and everything in terms of what we do and how we might be able to help you.
Awesome. Cool deal. And if you're watching on video, he's got it spelled right behind his head. So
exactly. It's backwards.
It's on the wall.
Or maybe forward for you. It looks backwards for me, but it's on the wall.
Yeah, awesome. Cool deal. Well, Justin, thanks so much, man. Have a good one.
Thanks for having me.